Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott. So honored to be with you today. We're in Georgia this afternoon for the burn pile murder trial for Melanie Farris. The 64-year-old is accused of fatally shooting her own husband, a prominent Atlanta attorney, and then burning his body in a burn pit. Prosecutors say the couple had a strained marriage and that Melanie, who was also having an affair, wanted to kill her husband for money. Before we get you back into court, let's bring in our own Court TV crime and justice correspondent, Matt Johnson, live there. Matt, the crime scene tech is on the stand talking key evidence today. What about that evidence stood out to you, please?
Judge Ashley, nice to see you. So it's day 2 of this trial playing out here in Cherokee County, Georgia, just north of Atlanta, and a big witness on the stand with key evidence talking about the evidence that was collected at that multi-million-dollar farm where this murder took place, according to prosecutors, including droplets of blood that were detected throughout the house and categorized and photographed. And then there was that bombshell piece of evidence that was shown to the jury, a possible bullet, the projectile that may have contributed to the death of Gary Farris. Take a listen.
When you come down the steps here?
Yes.
Was there anything leading from this area to this area?
Yes, there were what appeared to be drops of blood.
And then this area, do you end up finding something collecting it?
Yes, there was a projectile.
Court TV, in that courtroom here in Georgia, I'm paying close attention to the 16 that are in the box. That includes the 4 alternates. Everyone very engaged during this trial. They have notebooks, but they're not writing down much because they are paying close attention, Judge Ashley, to the testimony. And I noticed that a few of them were actually holding their chins when this particular witness was on the stand.
Oh, wow. And I know the other thing the jury has heard more about are the couple's affairs. Tell us about that, please.
Right, because that goes to the part of the state's motive of what they presented to this jury yesterday during opening statements. And, you know, then you have competing stories about the relationship of this couple, this defendant, Melanie Farris, and also her murdered husband, Gary Farris. They lived separate lives, according to both the defense and the prosecutors. But today, the defense, in their cross-examination of one of the investigators, really wanted to remind this jury that Gary also had extramarital affairs. Take a listen.
You went, as part of that, to talk to Angela Phillips.
Yes, sir.
Gary's secretary for 30 years.
Administrative assistant, yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ask her about whether or not her and Gary had ever had an affair before when you interviewed her?
I don't remember asking the specific question. I do remember writing in my report that there was no indication at that time that there had been an affair. They had just decided at that time that it was inappropriate and they'd cut it off.
Right. Was that at the time or in the past?
In the past.
Okay. But nothing makes you think she's a suspect in this, has anything to do with this, has any motive related to her whatsoever, right?
No, sir.
In the courtroom, we're not noticing much expression from this widow, this defendant, Melanie, there on the defense table. She's very engaged. She's writing down lots of notes. And remember, she was arrested a year after his death, and she has been out on $250,000, $250,000 bond ever since.
Right, and Matt, I always wonder how much that affects their demeanor, that they're actually out on bond and just coming into court for the trial. Thank you so much for all your great live reporting there. We want to go back now into court for the cross-examination of crime scene technician Melanie Thrasher.
What's your title? Is it like investigator?
Crime scene technician.
That's a lot. I'll just call you Miss Thrasher. How about that?
Okay.
With this house, it's a fairly extravagant house, right?
It's fairly what house?
Extravagant. The furnishings on the inside.
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive.
Sure.
Okay. Trying to figure out which one's mine. There we go. Measure. And we'll get to that stuff in just a second. First thing is, because you had testified on direct that you were relatively new back in July 5th, 2018, correct?
Absolutely.
And how long had you been on the job at that point? I missed that.
I don't recall when I finished my last class, but I had probably only been to a handful of scenes prior to that one.
Okay, so only a handful. How much time do you think you had actually in the field being a crime scene tech when you arrived at Purcell?
We did a 40-hour kind of practical type thing before we were signed off, but including that, I would say 70 hours.
And that'd be total?
Probably.
Okay. So about 70 hours in the field when you got there. So when you got there, I know you said that you were kind of working under Shaw and Ballard,
Yes.
right? Who was actually in charge of the crime scene technicians on July 5th, 2018?
Due to rank, Lieutenant Ballard would have been, but Sergeant Shaw, I think they divided tasks because it was such a large property.
Okay,
So I'm not privy to who decided what.
Okay, so essentially both of them were in charge.
Yeah,
Okay, so you could take orders from either one of them.
absolutely.
Okay, and who was it, Shaw or Ballard, that assigned you your duties? And if you don't know, that's fine.
I believe it was Lieutenant Ballard asked me to go photograph the house.
I think it was Ballard? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, first thing I want to go over with was what was Mr. Fogus's Thrasher number 3? Oh, yeah. Because you had walked the property originally, right? But before you started doing your photographs and things like that?
I walked around the house. I did not go to the barn.
Yeah, you didn't go to the barn, but you went around the back of the house and
Yes.
you went over to the burn pile, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so if I'm standing here, you can see on the left side of State's Thrasher 3 that there's kind of a dam leading over the lake, right?
Yes.
And from that dam, you can actually walk straight down or straight essentially toward me and go to the burn pile, correct?
It appears so.
Okay, and on the other side of the dam is the barn. You're that familiar with
Yes.
the property, right? Okay. Now I want to show you Thrasher 15. Okay, so the blood drop at the top of the stairs that you talked about.
Yes.
I've kind of got my, well, it would be a cursor, but now it's a hand. So it's somewhere around where the hand is clicking, right?
Yes.
And that is that solitary single drop, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you actually swab that drop?
I can't tell you for sure. I don't, from the way I remember the evidence being marked, we use the evidence markers on the property or the evidence items. So to my knowledge, I can't say yes or no, but me in particular, no, I would say. If it was, I don't know if it was ever swabbed.
Okay. You definitely didn't do it.
No.
Okay. And do you recall, because I've learned through this case that, and if you're not familiar with it, just say I'm not familiar with that. They've got these, I guess they look like little pregnancy tests, and they kind of come up with lines or a plus, and they can use them for preliminary blood testing.
Blue Star OBTI?
Okay. Did you do that on that solitary drop at the top of the stairs? Okay. And you didn't do, since you mentioned it, you didn't do any Blue Star testing in the house at all?
I did not.
Okay. Now let me... I'm going to come back to 16. Show you 6. So is the 46 the basement photo that you took? Yes.
That photo in particular is not,
It's not your photo.
it's not my photo.
That is that a photo from one of the Zillow photos, maybe?
It possibly is.
Okay, so you didn't take this photo.
I did not.
Okay. it looks similar to some of your photos, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Such as the ottoman, the blanket on the ottoman, the little blue table thing here.
Yes,
All of that is in some of your photographs too,
yes.
correct? Okay. And Thrasher 68. Okay. This is leading upstairs.
Correct.
Okay. Whose stuff is this?
I do not
This
know.
here at the bottom.
That was a picture, that's my task, is taking pictures of the scene as I found it when I walked in.
Okay. So you don't know, this ain't yours.
That's not mine.
Okay. You don't know what it is.
No.
Okay. Now you had also, see here, number 130, you had taken photos of Melody's car, right?
Yes.
The Toyota. Did you also take any photos of Gary's car?
That was the only car I took photos of.
Okay. Do you know if any of the other techs took photographs of Gary's car?
I do not recall. I don't know.
Okay. If you don't know, that's perfectly fine. Now, number 194, I think. So that's the blood drop at the top of the stairs,
Yes.
correct? Okay. And this is also the top of the stairs, and this will be Thrasher 195.
Okay.
So, and I'll just look all of the stairs. You didn't take any swabbings or anything from any of the suspected blood drops on the stairs.
I did not.
You didn't.
The markers, I know the evidence was labeled EM1 to EM10.
I'll get to that when we get down the
Okay.
stairs. But at least, let's just say that first set of 12 steps that go down to the landing,
Right.
right? All right, you didn't take any swabs of any of that suspected blood, right?
I did not.
And there was no preliminary testing done on it either.
Not that I know of.
And to the best of your knowledge, the carpeting wasn't removed, so it could be sent off to be tested either, was it?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Let me just get... One thing here you can see in this photograph, and this is 213. See how the floor, how on this side and over here, that one could be shadow, but it looks like the floor is kind of dusty.
Possibly. I mean, there is debris on the floor, and they have a dog.
Okay. Exactly. And how many dogs, I think Mr. Fogus had asked you, how many dogs did you see in the house?
I saw one.
Just one? Okay.
It's kind of interesting. I'm not sure where the defense is going, but things like only one dog in the house, no blood swabs of the stairs, a lot of debris on the floor in part from the dogs. We'll have to wait and see where the defense is taking this. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll return for more of the cross-examination.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, prosecutors say she shot her husband and burned his remains on their property. We'll bring you key moments from today's testimony in the burn pile murder trial.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
You chose the place. You chose the victim. Back of the head, execution style.
Now back back to Georgia for the burn pile murder trial. Prosecutors say that the defendant, Melanie Farris, shot and killed her husband and then burned his body in a fire pit on their sprawling family property. But the defense is attempting to poke holes in the state's case and says that the couple's son, who was the one who found the body and is also the only one with bullets that fit the murder weapon, a .38 caliber gun. Let's get you back into court now. Crime scene technician is on cross-examination by the defense.
First off, that little dot right there where the mouse pointer is, that is the projectile, right?
Correct.
Okay. Who first told you about the projectile?
We started looking, as I stated earlier, Lieutenant Ballard and I were attending to the blood drops. Sergeant Kuykendall came in and started looking, and he was the one that found it.
Kuykendall found it?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know, did Kuykendall move that ottoman at all to find that bullet?
I don't know for sure.
He could have.
Could have.
Okay. Because it's right on the edge of the carpet and almost close to being underneath the ottoman where it is in this photograph of 279, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to come back to these real quick. Let's back. I'm going to come back to the bullet in just a minute. Now, so even though I know your main task was just taking photographs, right?
Correct.
All right, and documenting everything. Did you see any blood on this chair on the right hand of States 279?
I don't recall seeing any.
Okay. Because if you would have documented it, right?
If I saw it, I would have documented it, yes.
There's no blood on the blanket, the ottoman, the little end table?
Not at the time. I did not notice it at the time. The scene was held for 3 more days, and I did not go back out, so I don't know if anybody re-examined that after the fact.
Okay, I'm just talking about what you did. Okay. So you didn't see anything. Mm-hmm. Okay, and the rug, the coffee table, no blood found there.
Not. Okay. No.
And if let me zoom in here. Let's talk about this one, 281. You don't see any blood in this photograph, correct?
I did not at the time.
But you can also still see the debris and stuff on the floor, okay? You also don't notice any, I'm trying to think of the way to phrase it, there's no impact marks, right? There's no hole for the bullet, right?
At that time, we had not noticed any.
Okay.
So I don't know what was searched after.
Okay. Okay. But at least in this photograph, there's no impact, like there's no skid marks or anything from a bullet.
Not in that area.
There's no hole or anything in the floor.
Not in that area.
Did you find any bullet holes in the basement?
In the time I was there, I did not.
Okay. And while I've got it, because the way that it was kind of done, see the red tip on the projectile?
Yes.
Now, how familiar are you with projectiles?
I mean, there's so many different types of ammunition and rounds. It's hard.
Well, I'm not going to ask you about that.
Okay.
That red, where the little hand is,
Yes.
That's not like tissue or blood or anything,
No.
right? It's actually a red polymer, correct?
Right.
Okay. It's actually part of the bullet.
Yes.
Okay. On one side, I just got to flip through till I find. Jeff, off the top of your head, do you know where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, that photo? Oh, there, I got it. There we go. I knew I'd get to it. 251. All right, so position 1 there, when you, because we've used some different terms, you keep saying like EM 1 and 2, and well, I know what you're talking about, but make sure the jury understands. You say like EM 1, we're talking about that one solitary blood drop next to the lamp, right?
Yes.
And EM 2 is what is marked on the screen right in the middle of it is number 2.
Yes.
All right. Now those 2 spots you did take swabs of.
Yes.
Okay. And those, you package those up and send them off to the crime lab.
Right.
Right. All right. 3 and 4, and then we know going around the corner or going back up the stairs where placard number 5 is, not swabbed, not tested, not taken. To the best of your knowledge, you didn't do it.
Correct.
Okay. Now, past, past number 1 here, if we go, actually, let me do it this way. That down. It's going to be 15. Yeah, number 15. 15. 17. So, going back to state 17, the diagram of the house. So, and I'm just speaking kind of roughly. So around here, kind of in the middle to the right, where the little hand is, that is where that number 1 blood drop was found next to the lamp, right?
Yes, a little bit forward of where you have it, but yeah, generally.
In this general area?
Yes.
You didn't find any more blood leading to, we've had a joke about this case for a while. I think these are what we're calling the American doors, right here on the right-hand side of the photograph.
Correct.
So there wasn't any additional blood leading that way, correct? That you found?
No.
Okay. There wasn't any blood leading back to the workshop, which is where Gary's office was?
Not that we found, no.
Okay. And there was no blood leading down the hallway toward Gary's bedroom?
Not that
Correct.
we found.
And then, yet again, the suspected blood that you testified about regarding the stairs was never tested?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And the blood at the top of the stairs, you don't recall if it was swabbed or not?
I do not.
Okay. Let me pull up my stuff, and while I'm doing that, when y'all went back out over a year later,
Yes.
who sent you out there?
I was asked by Sergeant Shaw to go. It sounded like at the behest of the DA's office, possibly to see, but I wasn't privy to those conversations, so.
Okay, so maybe somebody at the DA's office. And do you recall when was it you and Eckhart went back out there?
No, there were, it was me and Shaw, and I believe there were several others.
Okay. And you had just collected up essentially a bunch of fragments, bullets, projectiles, and gathered them up and sent them off to the crime lab.
We used metal detectors to find them. There was also a tree that was apparently where a target was leaned up against the tree at some point in time.
What was that leaned up against the tree?
Probably a target that was,
Oh,
I
okay,
think.
yeah. So somebody told you to go and you went?
Absolutely.
All right. All righty. Now, Thrasher Defense 1, did you take this photograph? Because I don't want to confuse you because, Zillow photos get mixed in with other ones.
That does not look like a photo I took, I don't think, but I can't be for sure.
Okay. But you would agree that's the house you were in, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you can see that, we'll just presume that this is around July the 5th. There's nothing wrong. There's no damage or anything. You didn't note any damage in your report anywhere in the basement, right?
I don't recall any.
Okay.
All right, an opportunity to bring in our guest for the day, trial attorney, former president of the National Bar Association, C.K. Hoffler. C.K., thank you, of course, for joining me. And the defense is not asking typical cross-examination questions. He's not leading the witness. He's asking open-ended questions. Whose stuff is it? Did you take pictures? Did you see the bullet hole? And at first I thought, I'm not sure this is effective, but now, C.K., he really is bringing out all of the many things that this particular person didn't notice. Blood on the rug by the coffee table, bullet holes in the basement, and he's lining it all up. Is it effective?
I think it can be effective. I must confess, originally I didn't see where he was going with all of this. But what he's trying to establish was that they really didn't do a very strong job in collecting the evidence. And I think that that can be quite effective if he ties it all together, but he's got to tie it together. And I think right now it's just he's asking questions, almost setting the stage for a conclusion that the investigation was not properly handled.
But he knows what they didn't do. I just wish the form of the question was like we talk about in trial skills, to say, isn't it true you didn't see the bullet hole, you didn't see the blood, you didn't notice this, you didn't look for this. And I think that arguably she should have been looking for these things since she was there to collect the evidence.
I agree 100%. I mean, when you're cross-examining a witness, you don't ask open-ended questions. He could lead this witness and tell the story through the witness to demonstrate that she really did not do what she was supposed to do and create that reasonable doubt. So he's not connecting the dots, which is what he must do through this witness. And it's, privacy is key. When you've got the witness and you can connect the dots, especially a witness who failed to do a lot of different things, you have to do it right then, because then the jury's wondering, like we're wondering, well, what does this all mean? And by the time you tie it together at the end of the case, people have forgotten. So I think that he's missing a great opportunity to tell the story of what they failed to do in the investigation through this witness.
I agree, and it is coming a little more clear for me, but I absolutely agree with your thoughts. One more question about this attorney and his demeanor. He's very kind. He is very polite, and that's not always the demeanor of an attorney, especially on cross-examination, but it is probably his personality. Tell us about what you think of the fact that we all as attorneys bring our personality to the courtroom.
Oh, absolutely. One thing that you have to do when you're a trial lawyer, you have to be your authentic self. So that's probably his personality. But that's the reason why I think if he had leading questions in a cross-examination, because he is so kind, because he is so gentle, he would score so many points because the jury would like him. But he's got to nail these issues because he's defending someone. This is a pretty tough case. And I just think he's missing the opportunity. But I do like his personality. And they're going to give him grace because of his personality. But he has to use that and lead this witness and tell that story. On the defense, you don't have any opportunity not to be aggressive with every single point because you've got to create that reasonable doubt. So I think his personality helps. We all bring that to the table. But he's not using his trial skills, I think, as effectively as he could.
Right, especially if they are going to try to continue to point the finger at a son, say it was somebody else who did it. All right, stay tuned. CK is going to stay with us. When we come back, we'll go back inside the courtroom for continuing cross-examination. Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Ashley Wilcott. Before we go back to court, a quick update out of Florida, where both sides have now rested in the home renovation murder trial for Corey Benderum. The 49-year-old home contractor is accused of killing his client, Susan Malden. Malden had hired Benderum in early 2019 to renovate her bathroom, but by October, the work wasn't completed, and she was telling friends that she was going to sue him in order to get her money back. Malden went missing shortly thereafter, and 3 months later, her remains were found in a South Georgia landfill. Earlier today, the defense ended their case by calling one of Benderum's former clients, who testified that Benderum was masterful at what he did and charged him a fair price for the work. Let's take a listen.
It was like watching a Michelangelo at work. He was just a master with the mud and how smooth and everything was. And you could just see he really, everything he did just took incredible pride in his work.
The amount that the other that you thought the job was going to cost.
Right. Exactly. It was pretty expensive.
What did Mr. Gregory do it for?
Around $1,200. You know, so he saved me quite a bit. And like I say, he could have, if he had said $4,000, it would have saved me $1,000. I would have been very thrilled with it, you know, but he just charged me for what it should cost.
Court is closed the rest of the week due to the impending hurricane in that area. Closing arguments are therefore now scheduled for Monday morning, and of course we will bring those to you live right here on Court TV. Right now, let's head back to Georgia, where the defendant Melanie Farris is charged with murder and the death of her husband Gary. Still on the stand is crime scene tech Melanie Thrasher. Let's go back in right where we left off, the defense undergoing cross-examination.
That's just showing the same view, except you can see the ottoman and the table again. And yet again, you didn't find any damage in the chair or the ottoman or anything like that?
I did not.
Okay. Yet again, same thing in 3 and 4. Apparently you have to pay money to make Adobe want to rotate pictures easily. That is not a free feature.
You're going to pay for anything extra for that computer.
And this photo too, and one of the things is on that coffee table that was there was all these candles and things like that, right?
Yes, I think there was a remote in that dish, maybe.
Yeah, a dish, and you can see there's like a vase there, got a glass, or what looks like glass or ceramic lamp too. And you said that, and like, while you were there examining that, you didn't see like no broken furniture or anything like that, right?
No.
Okay. Same thing, just a different angle. Now here, this is leading to Gary's office, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the doors that I had mentioned, is that where the American doors are, or is that the French doors? All right, so the American doors are over here, and that last blood drop is kind of right in the middle of this photograph, right next to the lamp, right?
Yes.
Okay. And yet again, no blood going this way, toward or down in the photograph, no blood to the left.
None that we found.
Okay. Now this photograph, do you recall, and I'll ask you why in a moment, but do you recall if you specifically took this photograph?
I think I may have. I'm not sure. It's dark outside, so when I was photographing part of these, it had
gotten
gone
dark?
past dark, yes.
Okay. Because I want to ask you about, when you look at this one, if you look at the other one, everything is relatively in place, right?
Yes.
All right, and then this one.
The ottomans moved.
Yeah, so in this one, if you look at the bottom, the ottoman's moved, that blanket is now on the couch, the pillow on the right-hand side of the screen has been, for some reason, taken off the couch. Did you move those things?
I did not. I believe Kuykendall continued to search once we found the projectile. Once we found it.
Because here's another question, because I can't see it. Because when you put down the placards, I don't know when that was. So I don't know if this stuff has been moved before these placards have been put out. You understand?
Right.
So is it before or after? Because I don't know. Is this how the room looked when you walked in? Or did it look put together?
The ottoman had not been moved when I walked down there the first time.
Okay, so it was over here like it is in the other photographs. Yes. Okay. Do you have any idea why Kuykendall would move like the pillow and the blanket and stuff like that?
To look under the cushions and things.
And you were you there when he did that?
I think I was still down there, but we were taking blood swabs is a tedious task that takes a long time. So.
Okay. And well, since Kuykendall's down there moving things, did you notice or find any additional blood drops, bullet holes, projectiles, anything like that?
I was not informed. if they did.
Okay. Number 5, number. And that's just a different angle, right?
Yes.
Okay. Show you Thrasher 9. Okay, that's just the same placards that we had seen,
Yes.
that you had put out. And number 9 is just going to be a photograph of the blood droplet, right? Now, did you actually, I don't mean this in a sarcastic way, but did you actually look at the floor, like going down the hall toward the workshop, toward Gary's office? Like actually going like, hey, I'm starting at 4, blood drop, 3, blood drop, 2, blood drop, 1, blood drop. Did you keep going? Like,
Yes.
hey,
Yes, we would have looked for a continued pattern.
Exactly.
Right.
So that is a logical assumption, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, logical assumption. Did they do it or not? Let us know what you think of how effective this cross-examination is. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will get you back inside the courtroom. Stay tuned.
We want to understand the mindset behind your actions in this case. Tell me, why are you here?
She needed payback.
Payback with her life?
Very funny, really. I'm laughing. Did you see me? I laugh.
I don't want any of this. Are you not prepared today to take responsibility for any of your crimes?
Interview with a Killer, a Court TV original series. Premieres October 20th, only on Court TV.
Back now to Georgia, where testimony remains underway in the murder trial for Melanie Farris. The 64-year-old is charged with shooting and killing her husband, Gary, whose body was found in a burn pile outside of their home in July of 2018. Before we go back to court, let's bring in again trial attorney C.K. Hoffler. C.K., tell me what you think so far in this case in terms of the evidence being presented by the state. Is there, do you think, a groundwork to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that it was the mother and not one of the sons who did this?
I don't think that they've made their case yet, Judge, because I think that what they've done is they've set it's like they're painting a picture, and I'd say this about both sides, but I don't think that they've told the story yet. So I'm waiting to hear more evidence of how this is conclusively linked to the wife versus the boys. And I think one of the boys or someone else. And I think that's going to be an uphill battle. And I don't believe that the evidence has been laid yet and they painted that picture. You know, they have to tell that story, and I just don't think it's there yet.
And real quick, we know she's been charged with 5 different counts, including malice murder, felony murder. Are you surprised that she's been out on a $250,000 bond pending this trial?
I'm extremely surprised by that.
too.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's same, just because of the nature of the charges, and, you know, arguably they have wealth, or at least she came from a wealthy situation and therefore could be a flight risk. But in any event, I digress. It's just interesting to note she's been out on bond pending these charges now, obviously in trial. Thank you so much, CK, for joining us today. We want to head back into court. Still on the stand, crime scene tech Melanie Thrasher.
It stopped at 1 or began at 1.
Right.
Or it may not be connected at all, right? One second, Judge. Hold this 1 second. Mr. Thrasher, a couple more quick things. With the, maybe I can pull it up, I don't know. With the blood drops, with that numbering pattern, you and Mr. Fogus talked about it briefly. How did you come up with that numbering pattern? Like, why is this one, I guess is my question. Why is this top of the stairs one?
There's no real reason other than that's where the curvilinear pattern was. It did not have, we were not stating, as we said before, that is where we thought it began or ended. It just was the easiest path. It appeared to create a path of some manner.
Okay, so fair to say you were in the basement and you had your placards and was like, hey, there's blood drop number 1.
You would be correct.
Okay, so basically just the easiest way to do it.
Yes.
Okay. So now I know you were relatively new when you first started. Now you've been doing this, what, another 6 years?
Yes.
Okay. Learned a lot more?
Whole lot more.
Gotten a lot better?
Yes.
Now, would it be reasonable, now, if you went out to Purcell Lane, that you would have been swabbing all of those spots?
I would have probably swabbed more, perhaps, but I was, as I stated, I was new and was following the lead of who I was working with.
People.
And it was a large scene, so that was held for several days.
Yeah, was it, because it was a large scene, because there was a lot of people there, weren't there?
Yes.
While you were there, how many investigators do you think were there?
Between investigators beyond the crime scene unit, 5 or 6, I really couldn't, I stayed in my area generally, and don't know who was called in and exactly where they were.
Would it be a fair assessment that, it's fairly a chaotic scene, a lot going on, a lot of people running around?
I wouldn't call it chaotic. It was...
Busy could be a better word.
Busy.
Okay. A lot going on?
Yes, you have to, but, there were people that have been doing this a long time and were in charge of making sure it was constructive.
Well, you also had Miss Eckhart here too, right?
Yes.
You and her were kind of doing this together?
Yes, she was with me as I took photos and took some notes, and then she did more at the burn pile than I did.
Okay. And one or two more questions. With since this,
yes,
over the course of your career now, have you ever had to take something from a crime scene, such as, I need to take up this piece of flooring or this piece of carpet,
yes,
to send it off from the crime lab?
Yes.
You have done that?
I don't know if I've taken carpeting, but I've cut pieces of wall before to find.
Okay, cut the drywall out?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, just for example, you could have, or your superiors could have cut sections of the carpet out to send it off for testing.
It's always a possibility, yes.
Okay. Nothing further at this time, Judge.
All right. Farris. Thank you, Judge. Technician Thrasher, let me just go back through some so we can get on the same page here. All right, do you see these are Thrasher? We begin with 1, and we go all the way to Thrasher 65.
Yes.
Let me make sure I get this.
Coming up next, Michael Ayala joining me for more testimony in the burn pile murder trial for Melanie Farris. Stay with us. We'll be right back on Court TV, your front row seat to justice. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott.
And I'm Michael Ayala. We're both here today giving you your front row seat to justice, and we are in Georgia this afternoon for day 2 of testimony in the burn pile murder trial.
Prosecutors say that defendant Melanie Farris shot and killed her husband and then burned his body in a fire pit on their sprawling family property.
But the defense is attempting to poke holes in the state's case and says the couple's son, who was the one who found the body, is also the only one with bullets that fit the murder weapon, a .38 caliber gun.
So let's get you back inside court now. The jury is hearing from a crime scene technician. It's cross-examination by the defense. Let's go back in.
All right, Thrasher 47. So we get from 1 to 47. Those are where your photographs begin, right?
Yes, 47.
The ones up to that are from realtor.com, whatever it is.
Yes.
All right, so the jury's not confused. 1 through 46 are things that were taken from online, and then yours begin at Thrasher 47.
Correct.
And then you also took the ones that the defense put up, the ones that he showed, except for one that may have been from that previous.
Right.
Now, when you were there and asking questions, the defense was asking questions about the numbering, and if you had done things differently or gone back. Everybody probably would do things differently in many ways. Would that be fair to say that in
Absolutely.
some cases you were like,
Yes.
I'd do this or that? But when you look at what you believe to be blood in the basement,
Yes.
Thrasher, 251. When you look at those placards, you saw the blood there. As you were, fair to say, all right, we're down here in the basement with evidence marker EM1. We're going to put it right here, and we're going to work our way, because 9 is back at the top of or 10 is back at the top of the stairs, right? While you were looking at that thing, then all of a sudden did you go, oh my goodness, that blood doesn't look like that blood, or that was totally different than that one?
No, I did not.
Did you think of, that one's really old, this one's really new?
No.
Did it ever cross your mind that these things weren't connected or related, or one was out of place as another one wasn't?
No, it did not.
And EM1, evidence marker 1, evidence marker 2, that those were taken and tested, and we're going to get the results of that test to see if it matches anything else down there too, right?
Right.
And if you did it over and you swabbed that blood, it's either his blood or someone else's blood.
Right.
I guess it could be not blood, but definitely the ones that were tested, they're going to come back to wherever they are, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Judge.
Anything else? All right, you sit down. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You got a short witness, or you want to take a break?
All right, we want to welcome our guest for this hour, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Franz Borgard. It's weird we can't say Fridays with Franz, but we're so happy to have you with both of us on this day. Franz, you know, the form of questions is driving me a little crazy on cross-examination, but weigh in. Is he doing an effective job poking holes to say, look at all the things you really didn't do when you were there at the crime scene?
Sometimes missed opportunities, lost opportunities is where we can argue reasonable doubt, right? By not doing things, you can argue that you've deprived the jury with the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Now, the way he's asking the questions is obviously troublesome, but I do think he's making some headway. And look, sometimes you do the best judge you can with what you got to work with and what you got to play with. So I think maybe they plan on just relying on, look, this is a woman that's been married for 38 years. And, you know, by you guys not doing a good job, you're depriving her of the ability to show the jury that she's not guilty. And that's a admirable and respectable argument sometimes that sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. But that is a straight-faced defense, and that is what they seem to be going with.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, to be clear, we were listening to cross-examination for a long time. Those recent questions there at the end were the redirect by the state, Michael.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Franz, quickly, the way the defense is going at this particular witness, I think, is really helpful in this sense. This is a case where I think the defense seems to be pointing the finger, perhaps at somebody else, the son, Scott, or somebody like that. But also, I think this is a case that can be won on process. And by that, I mean the process of the murder. This idea that she would have killed him in the house. She would have been able to move him from place to place. She would have then gotten him outside to the burn pit, and then she would have been the one that burned him. I think all those things are in play and a good area, a fertile area for the defense to attack.
So why and how are the two big ones, right? If someone else killed him, then the question becomes, Michael, why? Why did someone else kill him? The state is relying on the why in this case being, well, she's having an affair, and apparently divorce is too complicated and difficult for her to just file some paperwork. That's a big piece of this. The how, I agree with you. Does she look like someone that could kill him, move him, and do all these things? I think that there's reasonable doubt in that. Unless, of course, the state starts saying, well, maybe the son did have something to do with it, and maybe he had something to do with it with her. I'm not saying they're going to go that route, but again, it's not a far trip to say, okay, well, maybe she can't do it by herself, but that doesn't mean she didn't have help. And they just got to prove that she was the one who did it, right? So I hear you, and I think that is a great posture for a defense. I'm cautious about it as a defense attorney because, people are capable of all sorts of things. And depending on who you have on your jury, if you have someone of a certain age that is very active, they may look at her and say, you know what, I'm her age and I can do this. And I absolutely think I could have done all these things. And all that person needs to do is say that. And all of a sudden that defense goes out the window. So, it's all about who's on that jury and who's listening and who's making decisions. And that's why jury selection, as always, is so important.
Yes.
Yeah, and if there's enough evidence, I've seen many times where you'll go to a prosecutor and you're trying to work out something and you say, look, this doesn't match. This suggests he wasn't there or she wasn't there. And then they'll just say, well, then they had an accomplice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you didn't quite do it, he just had an accomplice.
Yeah, there's an answer for everything when you're prosecuting a case.